Welcome back, Mark from financialfreedomodyssey.com here. Today we have an interesting one. We're going to look back at the single stocks that I sold over the course of 2025. So quite a few months ago, I did a blog post. I think I did a video too, just kind of like breaking down my single stocks and the reason why I was in them and what my plans were long term and that sort of thing. So as you may know from last week, I only hold 3 single stocks currently. They are Shopify, Google, and AMD, and they've been doing exceedingly well. So let's take a look at how the ones that I exited would have done had I held them through until today. The values in this were recorded as of market close on November 5th, 2025. So the first one up was ATD, Alimente Couche-Tard. Exited the entire position in one shot back in February of 2025, and I dumped the proceeds of that straight into VDY. So you can see here, gains since the sale with the dividends. ATD is down minus 1.56%, and VDY is up 21%. Feeling like a broken record here, but geez, VDY and TSX has just been crushing it this year. So yeah, I definitely don't regret selling ATD. Like I wrote here, I think I debated selling this one for a while, and it was kind of stagnant. And I think I watched it decrease in value a fair amount. I think I wrote here, yeah, 10%. But anyways, I still sold it up. Not a ton, but definitely positive, and looks like that one was a good choice. Moving on to the second one, AQN, aka the anchor. The anchor of my portfolio for so long, albeit a very small percentage wise, but still an anchor just the same. This one I sold in March of 2025. Been on and off wanting to sell that one for years. Tons of people probably had told me to sell. I know in some of the Facebook groups and stuff that I'm in, people are saying, oh, you should have sold back when they cut the dividend the first time. You know, hindsight's 2020 and all that, but that considered, looks like that was the right choice. So I went a little bit more nuanced here. I sold it for about 45% Pref, 45% Google, and then I put 10% into VDY. So AQN is up 14.4% since March, including the dividends. Pref is up 6%. Google up an astonishing 70%. And Google does have a dividend, so a little, I think it was 69 something, and then the little tiny dividend propped it up. VDY, 24%. So what was it up here? 21. Oh, right, because we dipped in, yeah, there was a dip there. So must have had a lower starting cost than I had up here. So yeah, Pref, about half it going to Pref, obviously didn't gain as much, but Google gain was so much. And even if I just did say half Pref, half VDY, still would have been ahead. So good choice there. Moving on to T for TELUS. TELUS sold back in June of 2025, and I put 60% into XEI and 40% into VFV. This was another one that I debated on selling for a very long time. I did end up selling TELUS at a loss. I can't remember exactly for how much, but I want to say it was like a 10% loss or something like that. Another one I kind of held on. It went up, it went down. But it is now even lower than when I sold it, so I'm glad I sold it there. You can see here, so it's down 4% since I sold it. XEI is up 12.5% since June. I'm going to take a look. I know VDY has tended to outperform XEI, but I do still have some of both. Far more VDY in my total portfolio though. VFB, 40%, and that's up 17%. So a very clear-cut winner here. I did note, so XEI being a monthly payer that has a relatively high payout percentage, technically this 12.57% should be higher because I would have dripped a dividend, and then, you know, the drip shares make dividends. So anyways, still up. Big win. And the final one that I sold this year was TD. So I did a little teaser back in January. I sold about 20% of my position. Um, and you can see here, since January, TD is up 44.39%, like since the time that I sold in January. So what a run. And I'm glad I only did 20% to start. That one I just put 100% in the bank. TD makes up, I think it's like a 20% portion of bank. And I'm guessing it's probably the best performer in bank. So it has a lot to do with that 25% gain, or almost 26% gain. Bank, very much like XEI. I mean, actually more than XEI, a lot more than XEI in terms of dividend payout percentage. So that whole compounding effect that I'm not taking into account here would raise up the gains, but that's okay. We don't need to have things exact here. We're just broad strokes is good enough. So yeah, that's the first sale that I did, which is about 20% of my holdings. And then in July, after watching TD Bank rise up about 25%, maybe a little bit more, I then decided to exit the rest of the position, and I chose to put it into VFV, 80% into VFV, and then 20% into bank. So VFV was up 10% since I made that move in July, and bank is up about 15%. So this one I definitely lost on. If I held TD right till now and then sold and then transferred over, I would have been in a better position. So 3 or 4 is not too bad. One thing to say is that, actually 2 things to say. So the first one, VFV, is the S&P 500. This is the first year in quite a few years, I believe, that the S&P 500 has outstretched the TSX. So I'm sure, that pattern will continue, and in the years to come, VFV will do even better than this year on average. Though this is a pretty good year, so I might be wishing for a little bit too much here. But the second thing that I wanted to go over is I did have 3 of 4 correct, 1 of 4 incorrect. But what does that mean overall? So I wrote here TD was about 40% by total dollar value compared to all 4 holdings. And even with that into consideration, I was up a total of 5.32% based on my actions versus if I did absolutely nothing and I held it and I count dividends and that sort of thing. So, hey, that's a win. 5% is great. Some years you don't even get 5%. So I'm definitely happy about that, and I can justify my moves. Don't plan on taking a look back in the future to see. Generally try to look forward, but I did this video, so who knows. Hope you enjoyed, and take care. Cheers.